Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Just imagine energy bills up to 15 times more than normal. Well, as winter approaches, that's what Europeans are facing in the worst energy crisis in modern history.
It's because of Europe's move toward green energy and a greater dependence on Russian fuel. America could be facing a similar crisis if the White House gets its way with 100% green energy within the next 13 years. Dale Hurd explains.
Some Europeans are so angry over sky-high energy bills, they're burning them. Others are starting to gather firewood for winter. These are some of the wealthiest nations in the world, and yet citizens are wondering if they're going to be able to heat their homes when the weather turns cold. London's mayor is warning that millions won't be able to afford food or heat this winter.
We're at prices which are 10 to 15 times the 10-year average. People can't afford to pay that much for their energy bills.
Europe's closure of hundreds of power plants in favor of wind and solar and its decision to rely on Russia for 40% of its natural gas have backfired badly. The Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines from Russia to Germany are both offline now after being rocked by an explosion last week, what is suspected to be sabotage. Germany was warned repeatedly by then-President Donald Trump that it was making a big mistake by turning to Russia for energy, including this speech at the United Nations in 2018.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course.
Germany's UN delegation appeared to laugh at Trump's warning. They're not laughing in Germany now. Dr. Holger Thus in Germany is the president of the European Institute for Climate and Energy.
It's crazy. Everybody's afraid of the upcoming winter. And nobody really knows what's going to happen. And nobody also knows where the energy is going to come from.
Businesses across Europe that can no longer afford their monthly energy bills are shutting down. The value of the euro and the British pound have dropped dramatically. And despite an energy crisis that has turned into an economic crisis, European nations are continuing to close and dismantle nuclear reactors. 10 years ago, Germany had 17 nuclear reactors. It's decided to keep only 2. And only as backups. America should learn a lesson from Europe's energy crisis, but the Biden administration seems to be going down the same road. The White House wants America on 100% green energy in just 13 years. And congressional Democrats continue to pressure banks to stop funding the oil and gas industry.
Answer with a simple yes or no. Does your bank have a policy against funding new oil and gas products? Mr. Diamond.
Absolutely not, and that would be the road to hell for America.
It has certainly been the road to economic hell in Europe, which is now bracing for a winter of social unrest. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
We're all listening to Jamie Dimon. It would be the road to hell. We've had energy independence for some time. You go back to the Bush administration. They really incentivized new drilling, and that was for environmentalists, that was sort of the worst thing you could do. But what it did is it really cemented in our economy low energy prices. This past year, we've had to deal with very high gas prices, high natural gas prices, and all of these things have really impacted inflation. So we're understanding the wisdom of saying we need energy independence. Whatever sources they are, you need it for a vibrant economy. If you put our economy on some kind of 13-year fast track to be all green, I've already heard from the energy experts, there's not enough land to put the solar farms. There's not enough land to put the wind farms. You're going to run into some pretty severe technological issues trying to do that. So how can we get off of coal, get on natural gas, get on things that aren't as pollution-oriented, and let's try to carve a soft landing into an energy independence, and again, let me underline independence, that makes sense economically and is driven by both sides of the equation. The one to reduce fossil fuel dependence, but at the same time keep our economy humming. Europe didn't do that, and you're seeing the after effects of it. Back in 2018, Germany said there's no way there's ever going to be a problem with Russia. Well, they were absolutely wrong, and their dependence on that natural gas pipeline is really hurting them today, and it's hurting all of Europe today. Let's look at what is happening to them and say, not us, let's go a different way. In other news, the Supreme Court's new term is underway, and the addition of a new justice has created historic changes. John Jessup has that story and more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. Since Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson joined the court, there are now 4 women sitting on the bench and 2 African Americans. CBN's Abigail Robertson reports on new beginnings at the High Court, as well as what's on the docket, including some crucial cases dealing with freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
For the first time since the pandemic began in 2020, the Supreme Court reopened its doors to the public and began the new term with the familiar sight of people standing in line for hours to hear oral arguments. The court also has removed the barricades it erected in May as part of ramped-up security after the Dobbs opinion leak. Last month at a conference, Chief Justice John Roberts admitted the 2 measures made for an unusual and difficult year.
It was gut-wrenching every morning to drive into a Supreme Court with barricades around it.
But perhaps even more concerning is the public's growing mistrust of the court. Worries, especially on the left, that the court has become political. Last month, a Gallup poll found just 40% of U.S. adults approve of the court, a record-tying low. Roberts took on those concerns at the conference, saying it's always appropriate to critique the court's opinions, but he called out those who question its legitimacy.
I don't understand the connection between opinions that people disagree with and the legitimacy of the court. If the court doesn't retain its legitimate function of interpreting the Constitution, I'm not sure who would.
On Monday, the newest justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, took the bench. The court now has 4 women justices for the first time ever. The justices have loaded this term's docket with high-profile cases involving race, elections, and religious liberty.
There's a Colorado law that prevents me from continuing with my work.
A Colorado wedding designer is contesting a law that prevents her from refusing to work on gay weddings.
Although this one has a lot of religious liberty implications, at its core, it really is a First Amendment free speech case.
Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation tells CBN News this is the next step after the Masterpiece Cake Shop case that the court previously ruled on.
This one involves website creation. It much more squarely tees up the First Amendment free speech issues. And so I think it'll be very interesting to see what the justices do with this case.
Another case pits Yeshiva University, an Orthodox Jewish school, against a group of gay students wanting to form a campus club.
Unfortunately, this is the conflict we're seeing more and more today, a conflict between what are supposedly neutral laws and the religious liberty interest of those who are subject to those laws. And this is a question the court, I suspect, cannot avoid for much longer.
One piece of unfinished business for the court, finding out who leaked the draft opinion of the Dobbs abortion case. Justice Roberts ordered an investigation, but so far there's been no update. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abigail. Well, the Supreme Court's decision striking down federal protection for abortion is playing out in the midterm elections. Democrats believe it's a key issue that could help them keep their House majority in November. So they're pouring more money than ever into ads pledging to protect abortion. As Politico reports, so far, Democrat candidates and political action committees have spent more than $18 million in 4 battleground states. That's more than 3 times the amount Democrats spent on abortion ads back in the 2018 midterm election. Well, the abortion battle isn't just playing out on the campaign trail. The House recently held a hearing on the impact of a potential national ban, while some pro-life advocates continue to push for uniform restrictions across the country. Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka reports.
A handful of bills have already been proposed on Capitol Hill calling for some form of national abortion restriction. And following the Supreme Court's ruling, that issue is far from a settled one here in Washington.
All the scripture references were known in the womb before they were born. And for us or companies to have policies, laws, or requirements to force people to violate their deeply held religious convictions is just wrong.
Lawmakers went back and forth over the potential for national abortion restrictions. Witnesses included Pittsburgh's Kelsey Lee, who talked about the difficulty making her abortion decision when doctors told her the baby's health was at risk.
If my pregnancy continued, he likely wouldn't have had the ability to swallow. He may not have been able to breathe, and his bones would have broken during delivery, no matter the method.
Lee said she wouldn't have been able to make that decision if there had been any ban in effect under 20 weeks. Pro-life OBGYN Dr. Monique Chereau-Wubenhorst told the committee that there was a difference between treatment of a miscarriage and that it would still be allowed if abortions were not.
Abortion not only poses risk to the mother, it is always lethal to an unborn child. It is my opinion that abortion is not health care.
It's unknown right now how much support a national ban does in fact have among Republicans on Capitol Hill. Many believe that it should be left up to the states, especially after the Supreme Court ruled in the Dobbs decision, while others proposing a national ban believe that ultimately their colleagues would end up siding with them if it did come down to a vote. Matt Gelka, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Matt. Well, President Biden visited Puerto Rico Monday to meet with victims of Hurricane Fiona. The Category 1 storm tore through the island just over 2 weeks ago. About 100,000 people are still without power. The president pledged an additional $60 million in aid money in addition to an additional $2 billion to help the island recover. Well, the president is set to visit Florida tomorrow to view destruction from Hurricane Ian. That storm now responsible for more than 100 deaths. New images of the devastation are coming out. Search and rescue teams are focusing their efforts on barrier islands cut off from when the storm destroyed bridges connecting them to the mainland.
There's more urban search and rescue teams in Florida now than in any one place in American history since September 11th.
More than 400,000 people are still without power. The state utility is pledging to get most power restored by the end of the week. Well, CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground in Florida, working with churches to distribute relief. In Cape Coral, a semi-truck delivered supplies to Crosspoint Christian Church. The crew unloaded pallets of bottled water, Home Depot cleaning supply buckets, emergency meals, and Gatorade. Pastor Matt Swearingen said the supplies helped the church to assist with the basic needs of their community.
We would not be able to serve our community in the same way without a partner like Operation Blessing, because the stores around here don't have the supplies that we need to be able to give out. They don't have cases and cases of water bottles in stock. That stuff's already been purchased. That stuff's already been raided, so to speak. And so those are empty shelves. And so we want to continue to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We want to get right into action serving our community. And without a partner like Operation Blessing, we're just not going to be able to provide those resources in the same way because they're not available here.
Just like he said, Gordon, we're being the hands and feet of Jesus.
And if you're a donor to the 700 Club, you're those hands, you're those feet. You're making it possible for us to help the people in need in Florida. If you want to join in on the effort, it's real easy. All you have to do is give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of a check. You can call us, 1-800-700-7000, say, I want to give. Then there's on CBN.com on the website a place where you can designate your gift to the disaster relief team, and then you can text us, OBDR, to 71777. Either way, be a part of it. Let's help those people in need. The devastation is just unimaginable. But we're there, and we're there in your name because you cared enough to give. Call us now, 1-800-700-7000.